Hello and welcome back to the Draw Pod. It's me, your host, Elyse. In this episode, I'll be chatting while doing another drawing for Peachtober. If you're new here, this is a visual podcast where I draw something and chat with you as I go. If you're new here, this is a visual podcast where I draw something and just chat with you as I go. You don't really have to watch the video to know what's going on, and if you prefer to listen to it on a podcast app, it's available everywhere. But if you want to watch the YouTube video, check it out on my channel, which is linked in the description of this podcast. Also, if you would like to see the final image, check out my art Instagram, which is at Elyse_draws, and that'll also be listed in the description of this podcast. So, I'm here. I just did my old drama warm-ups back whenever I did theater in high school. If you're familiar with the 1 hen, 2 ducks, 3 squawking geese thing. Anyway, it's like a radio announcer thing, and it helps get you warmed up, so hopefully I speak well in this podcast. But anyway, hello. In this week's episode, I'm going to talk about social media and what I think of it as a designer and just kind of a human who spends too much time on it. My journey of forming healthy boundaries with social media has been about 2 years in the making, I would say, starting in around January of 2019. But I'm still not super happy with where I am in my relationship with it, but I'm hoping to get better in the future. I don't think social media is evil, but I do want to talk about how design plays into our experience on these platforms. The Social Dilemma documentary that just came out on Netflix a bit ago and that everyone's watching, and how I'm trying to improve my relationship with social media. But before I get into that, I'm just going to give you a quick life update. So when you're listening to this podcast, I'll actually be in Canyon Lake, which is very exciting. It's my mom's birthday today that I'm recording this podcast, and we're getting a little lake house place, and we're just gonna chill at Canyon Lake for the weekend. So that's gonna be super nice. I'm excited to just change things up, do something different. You guys know that I'm into that. But yeah, and the other thing I wrote down is that I am so excited to explore and enjoy the area. One thing that my boyfriend and I are going to do is we're going to go to the gorge, which is this I don't know how to explain it really, but basically from floods in 2006, this whole area before then, it didn't look like how it does now, and it's beautiful and very blue, and it's just revealed several layers of very geologically important rocks. I guess all rocks are kind of geologically important, but it just told us a lot about the area over the years from what it revealed, and it was revealed by a flood that happened in 2006, which basically made the gorge in 24 hours. So I think it just pushed away the sediment. I don't know anything about it. I took a class, History and Evolution of Life, in college. That was my science credit. We toured this gorge before, and I'm going on the same tour that I did then, this time, but with my boyfriend. And it was a really beautiful experience. So I'm excited to do it again and see some dinosaur tracks, because I think that's, spoiler alert, if you do this tour, I think you see some dinosaur tracks at the end of it. So really cool. But the other thing I did write down is I am burnt out. Last night I had a nice journaling session with myself, an intense journaling session, and I've just come to the conclusion that I am burnt out. My issue is that I like to work ahead. I've always liked to work ahead. In college, I was just, I don't know, I would get assignments done a week or two in advance, and I'd get everything done on Monday and Sunday of the week before it was due. I don't know. But that doesn't really work. That doesn't translate that well to this post-grad experience where I'm pretty much my own boss, and I'm making deadlines and I'm making YouTube videos. And the thing with that is I post every week. So no matter how far ahead I get, I'll still never have enough, or work's just gonna keep appearing. I'm gonna have to keep uploading videos, and I'm doing this at the same time as I'm looking for jobs, and so it's this is a side project, but it's also kind of my main project because of how much effort I'm putting into it. And I'm well, also I would like my channel to grow into something bigger that I can, potentially, profit off of in the future and make this something that is a stream of income for me. That would be really great. That's a little peek inside my mind lately, and it's just been kind of exhausting. So I actually decided to stop studying Spanish in the way that I have been before. It just was too much of an extra thing. I added it on because I didn't have enough to do earlier on, but now I have way too much to do now. I've taken on some freelance projects, and I'm putting effort into my YouTube videos and doing a bunch of other stuff. Way too much stuff. And then Peachtober is taking a lot out of me, kind of. So anyway, so yeah, I just cut doing Spanish, but I'm going to probably continue to review my flashcards and do my, I subscribe to the How to Spanish Podcasts Patreon, just because I really like what they do and I really wanted to support them, but also that gives me access to a lot of good listening resources. So I think I'm going to try and just focus my studying on that. But anyway, I'm working on feeling less burnt out. I think that this trip to Canyon Lake will be a really nice break. I'm trying to get, of course, my work done ahead of time so I can kind of enjoy that time at the lake. So that'll be really nice. I'm working on feeling better. I think that cutting out the Spanish, while right now it doesn't feel like a huge deal, like I'm still a little stressed, I think that that'll over time help me feel less like I'm burning myself out. But anyway, in conclusion, I would like this YouTube channel to do really well and take off soon, or I would like to get a full-time job where someone else is telling me what to do. So that's where I'm at. Something new I learned, I was going to share something. I didn't actually write out something new I learned this week. I was going to share something about Canyon Lake that y'all didn't know, but I mean, I kind of shared that already. It was formed in a day. That's pretty cool. The only other thing I learned that's new is that I am burnt out. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I wish I had something more exciting to share. But anyway, moving into the book update that I give every week, I started reading and I finished reading. Oh, wait, actually, I do have something new I learned this week, and it has to do with books. The new thing I learned is that, so I use the Libby app to record or to read library books on my Kindle. Really great. My Kindle is a dinosaur. It is definitely about 10 years old. I am obsessed with it now. But I learned that with the Libby app, you have to turn your library book back in whenever it's due. And it just goes back to the library. But on my Kindle, if I don't have wireless turned on, then I can kind of keep the book for as long as I want to. The only issue is I can't turn my wireless on, but I rarely need that. So I'm still working on Don't Make Me Think, which is kind of a UX book I think I've mentioned before. And I really need to get through that because I'd like to actually get it off my Kindle and be done with it and feel less bad about not returning it to the library. But yes, that's something new I learned this week, is that my old dinosaur Kindle will allow me to hold on to Libby library books for a lot longer if I just keep the wireless off. So do with that information what you will. Okay, now book update. I finished reading Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. And that's kind of what I wanted to also talk about for the subject of this week's podcast about social media and things. I think it's kind of funny that I consider myself a maximalist, but I think in the digital sphere, I am definitely more of a minimalist. I don't think you need to have one way of living your life the whole way. I think, intentionality is the most important, and you can find intentionality in maximalism and in minimalism. Anyway, I gave this book a 5-star rating, really liked it. Again, plugging my Goodreads. It's a great app or a great website, social media, where you can share what books you're reading and share that with your friends and make lists. And it's just a really good way for me to keep track of book recommendations that people have given me over time. So I really like it. But anyway, yeah, I gave it 5 stars, and it's basically about, it starts off kind of stressing that you should do this 1-month detox, digital detox, where you eliminate all social media pretty much, unless it has to do with work, which is kind of what I'm going to have to deal with because, I make YouTube videos, and a lot of what my work is now is based off of social media. So I'm going to have to make some adjustments, but it basically says that you need to do a 30-day detox, and then after that, just kind of keep track of how you feel. And then after that, you go in and start to slowly reintroduce technology into your life. And or not like all technology, like computers or something, but like your phone. It's mostly focused around your phone usage and how like phones are just designed to be like a slot machine in your pocket, with notifications and everything. And I just thought it was a very level-headed look at this idea of digital minimalism, looking at how we should be taking advantage of technology and social media and our phones to improve our lives, not to cause loneliness or have it hold us back in any way. And there were a lot of really good concrete examples and reasons why you should do this, and ways that you can, include more solitude into your life, which is a really good thing, to allow you to think more and to not really invite so much of the outside world's thoughts into your brain. It's really important to like write and to journal with other stimuli just away from you. That even includes reading. Reading is something where you're looking at the opinion of someone else. So reading is still good, obviously, and better than browsing social media, but it really pushes the idea of, kind of craft and develop, getting handy with things, learning how to fix things, playing a guitar, things like that. I'm kind of rambling on about it, but this was a really good book, and I would really recommend anyone read it, especially if you are concerned with your relationship with social media. And I can't believe it's been so long, or like I've had this book recommended to me by so many like productivity YouTubers that I've watched over the years, and I just hadn't read it until it was part of the Bliss Beans book club, which is, I usually read a book from her book club every month. But yeah, really glad I finally read it. A pretty quick read, so you should definitely check it out. I really liked it. Yeah, and I guess that takes us into our specific episode topic for today, which is social media and me. So let's get into it. So I guess like looking back whenever I was younger, I felt like I'm really thankful for the specific like year that I was born and the period that I grew up in, because I didn't get an Instagram. It wasn't really much of a thing, wasn't very developed, until my freshman year of high school, which, honestly, I wish that I hadn't, but I'm happy that I don't know. Anyway, so I made my Instagram account then because my little brother made an account, and I was like, I've got to keep an eye on him. He's under 13 or whatever. So I did that. And before then, really my experience with these kind of somewhat addictive technologies, was I played a lot of video games. I played a lot of Pokemon growing up. You probably know this about me. Yeah, I really love Pokemon. I really love Animal Crossing. I still do. And I never felt like I had an unhealthy relationship with video games growing up or now. They're kind of a very separate thing to me, in terms of like addictive technologies or whatever. But now, yeah. So anyway, I had a good relationship with everything growing up. I watched a little bit of YouTube. I had a DeviantArt, which was like an art uploading website. You can't find it now, so don't go looking for my old account. But yeah, so that was kind of my start with everything. And then in high school, like I said, downloaded Instagram, and it was kind of okay. I felt like there were some strict rules with how to post on social media within my high school, and like what to post. Like also Twitter was never really a thing for me. I recently deleted my Twitter that I started in high school or in college because I don't know, Twitter wasn't really the social media that my high school participated in, and you just kind of, it's weird, you kind of follow the rules of like what everyone at your high school is doing. So anyway, so yes, that was my start with it. I think that over high school and in college, I definitely developed somewhat, like a not very healthy relationship with social media. Just kind of, I have ADHD. I might have mentioned this before in my videos or on my podcast, but my issue with social media has never been the whole like body image thing that a lot of people struggle with, like following models or these Instagram influencers or whatever that have perfect bodies and it makes them feel bad about themselves. I've very thankfully never had this issue with social media, but to me, my problem has always been, kind of the dopamine hit that you can get from, getting likes and engagement on your posts and your content. And that feels good. And I can definitely tell now that that is the thing that drives me back to the platform, is I like sharing things and I like hearing back from people and I like getting notified of things. So that feels very good for my ADHD brain, something with the dopamine. But anyway, so yes, that's kind of where I was at. I was, I still watch a lot of YouTube now. I really don't cut that out of my life, but I was just on Instagram way too much and noticing that it was making me pretty unhappy. Snapchat was still something I enjoyed doing, but also was kind of a distraction with all of the extra features they've added to it over the years, which I can't blame them because Instagram's trying to steal everything that they have. Whatever. Facebook's evil. Oh, I also had a Facebook, but that's never really caused a lot of issues in my life. Anyway, so now we are at January 2019. My friend Susie recommended I read this book that she was reading for her school called Irresistible by Adam Alter. And it talks about just kind of the practices that the social media companies do and other technologies do to get us hooked on social media and to keep us there and keep us making money for them. So I really recommend this book. It was very much I guess you could say, life-changing book for me, at least within, the season of my life that I'm in right now, or I was in then. And it just made me start to really consider my time on social media and what I would, because, I like to do a lot of things. Clearly, I am burnt out. So I really don't want to be spending my time on social media, and I just felt like I was wasting a lot of time, especially when they introduced the screen time measurement thing. I first did it using the Moment app, which was recommended in Irresistible. I think it's a pretty good app, but I don't think it's going to cause the changes that I really need to make in my life. But anyway, I can talk about that a little bit later. But anyway, so I have a lot of time that I spend on social media and my screen time is ridiculous. I'm not going to say it on here because I am embarrassed by it, but also I don't know. Anyway, I'm not even going to get into it, but I have a lot of screen time and I still do now as well, and I'm trying to limit that. And Irresistible by Adam Alter was the first book that made me consider that I even had an issue with social media, really. So after that, then I went through my semester kind of somewhat limiting my use of social media using Moment, which is an app that, again, it kind of trains you somewhat to stop using social media as much and to spend less time on your phone and more time in the moment. And that was kind of okay. I tried other tricks that I found on the internet, like Matt Diavella. He made some videos kind of about giving up social media and productivity and things like that. And I put my phone in black and white so it was less engaging to look at because, the colors on the screen make you more excited about something than if it were in black and white. I went back and forth over and over again, deleting and re-downloading and logging in and logging out of Instagram and Snapchat. And and I did this all throughout my time in Madrid as well. And yeah, I mean, it just was really, I feel like I've gotten better over time, but it's been such a kind of gradual and somewhat frustrating process, trying to continue to maintain this kind of break from social media. So I'm just trying to kind of figure out, I guess, how to separate myself from my phone when also, especially this year, I would like to keep in touch with more people, and a way to do that is through social media. But anyway, so that's kind of was my first stab at everything, and then I also learned a lot in my thesis, my honors thesis, or not like learned a lot, but there was another girl who was also completing an honors thesis, and we were in the same class together, kind of. It was just us two, and she was doing hers a little bit more about web design and dark patterns, which is something very interesting. I wish I had a definition pulled up for you right here, but essentially dark patterns are this very interesting and evil thing where web designers and companies, and I mean, you have to somewhat blame web designers and graphic designers for this, but it's also just money that's pushing everything, and corporations telling people to do this, and some people need to have a job. So I somewhat blame them, but I also don't. It's the big corporations that are at fault. But anyway, dark patterns. They're this thing where, you know how if you get an email from a company and it's like really annoying and you, I guess, signed up for their mailing list, you're not totally sure about that, but when you're going to the bottom of the screen and you're trying to figure out if there is an unsubscribe button, it's usually kind of tricky to find. And also, like on certain apps, especially video games, usually, basically dark patterns are when you are manipulating the expectations of an interface in web design. So like on a website or on an app or something like that, you're manipulating what people would normally expect. You know how like red means exit, or how just like buttons mean click, or if something has an underline to it, then that means that it's a hyperlink. And that is just like, that's just what you expect. There are these standards across the web that we as humans have learned to understand as a part of, as somewhat of a language of web design. And by using these standards that we have set up and by manipulating them, a lot of web designers who are designing around like dark patterns, they are making these like payment buttons, you know, like saying like, oh yes, I do want to buy an extra life in this video game, which you usually probably don't want to just automatically buy an extra life, especially if you're playing a game for free on your phone. But you would make that button green and put it on either the left or the right side, depending on what the player would expect to do. You kind of flip those expectations to make someone accidentally click something. So that's kind of a very not super clear definition of dark patterns, but I think from a design standpoint, it's really important to, or if you are a designer, I think it's really important to consider your morals when you're doing this, and really think about the consequences it's having on people, especially in the Social Dilemma documentary. A lot of people talk about, it was a lot of older people, or they're not really that, they're not old, but like they used to really work in tech and work at Google and Facebook and Instagram and everything, and they have like regrets for the technology that they helped to engineer that has caused a lot of people a lot of issues. And I guess now I can dive into my thoughts on the documentary. I watched this with my mom a few weeks ago, and I agree with the sentiment that people have about it was a little over dramatic, and that personally, myself, as you can tell, I've been thinking about these topics and about dark patterns and about web design and social media and my relationship with it and the amount of time that people spend on it. I've been thinking about that for quite some time, and so I'm aware of pretty much everything that they discussed in the documentary. I agree with people saying that it wasn't really focused enough on like one topic. They kind of jumped around and didn't offer any concrete solutions. And I think that's the most valuable thing for if you're trying to have a better relationship with social media and screen time in your phone. I think that solid concrete recommendations are, and I mean, that's the same in a lot of places in life, but those are what's going to actually make a difference in people's lives. And so I wish that the documentary, being given that platform and given that power to provide information to people, I wish that they would have been a little less fear-mongering, because they definitely established that, and they were in the right to do so in certain ways. I think the whole thing with the three guys manipulating the dude or putting alerts about his ex or whatever, I thought that was a little bit not accurate, but I thought that it would have been better, instead of saving all of that advice for the credits, if they had incorporated it into the documentary itself. But overall, I think it was a positive thing that this documentary was released, because I think it's really important that the greater public kind of at least acknowledges that this is a thing, and spends, maybe this is a good introduction for people to see this documentary and to start thinking about it, and just to be more educated and be able to question what's going on in their lives and if they're being manipulated, and the fact that their attention basically equals money for companies, and we are not getting really compensated for that. We are often getting hurt from that. So anyway, just looking back at my notes for some things I wanted to talk about, I have to say Instagram is the worst for me just because of how it's built. I can definitely see that it's engineered to be addictive, and I hate it. But I also love it. And it's also, unfortunately, my largest following on social media. So I often promote my other things like this podcast and YouTube videos and my stickers. I promote it using Instagram. And so I have to keep downloading it and then undownloading it, and it's just not fun. I'm actually going to do that digital detox in November. So I'm really excited to take that on, and really just, I'm going to only post on Instagram during the month of November for promoting this podcast and any art that I upload. That is getting deleted. And then Snapchat's going to be totally gone. Facebook, I'm not going to access. And YouTube is the interesting thing. I adore YouTube. I love YouTube. If you can't tell, I make YouTube videos. I've been watching YouTube videos for forever. My watch time is ridiculous on YouTube, and I'm also not going to tell you that information. But I think for the month of November, when I'm kind of doing this digital detox, I'm going to try and limit my YouTube watching to watching it on my computer or on my TV. I'm not going to let myself watch it on my phone. I think this is going to be like a very phone-centric exercise for me. So I'm excited to do that and just kind of take a break and try to read more and draw more. Just enjoy myself a little bit more doing analog things. So yeah, but YouTube is so much fun. I feel like I get value out of YouTube as well, and podcasts, so I don't find as much of an issue about it. I don't find much of an issue with it, but I think I need to be more intentional with the content that I consume. So yeah, as I mentioned, Digital Minimalism is a great book, and I think it was probably a really good thing for me to read to kind of reignite this feeling of needing to take better care of my brain and respect my time and respect myself by not accessing social media as much anymore. I think that, companies, very bad, very bad. They are evil. I'm not saying social media as a concept is evil, but like social media companies are just trying to make money off of your attention, and that is the model that they have built their platforms on, unfortunately, and I wish that there was a different way of having these services without having it based off of our attention. So anyway, this was my rambly conversation today about social media and my relationship with it. I think it's really important to just be aware of what you're spending your time on, and your time is so valuable, and there are so many things that you could enjoy doing besides social media. So yeah, think about it, look into it, look up dark patterns, read some of these books. Again, Cal Newport's Digital Minimalism and Adam Alter, Irresistible. Also, Adam Alter added me back on LinkedIn, which is super exciting. I did this like maybe a few months ago. I don't know. I just was like, what if he'll add me back? Let me try. So he did. I haven't reached out to him. I don't know what I'd reach out to him about. But anyway, that makes me feel cool. So, thanks for listening to this podcast. I hope you got something out of it, learned something new. And I will talk to you next week about something else. Who knows? But I'm going to go enjoy my time at Canyon Lake, and I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Bye.